Good morning, everyone. My name is Nisha Talagala, and I'd like to welcome you all to the AIClub Student Research Symposium. So there are 3 sessions in this symposium. The first is a teacher professional development session, which is what we're going to start now. After that, we will have our main session with the keynote and the student speakers. And then after that, we will also have a second teacher development session. So we will kick off now. If you are just joining, please just go ahead and listen in on the presentation, and there will be some activities as well. And so we will be guiding you through the activities as you proceed through this session. And for those of you who are completing the session at the end of around 9 o'clock or about an hour and a half from now, we will have a link where you can sign your name and your email address, and you will be sent your certificate. Also, everything that we cover in this session today are all free resources that are available to you guys as teachers. And so we will be sending out a detailed email to anyone who fills out that certificate form, and a detailed email with all of the resources so that any exercise that you do today in this session, you can do in your own classroom. And so that will include, videos, teacher guides, as well as the live exercises themselves. So that's kind of how we will run this particular session. So I'm going to start by handing it over to my colleague, Aliyah. So you can see that we have, see if I can figure out the, where's the gallery? Can you guys see my face? Can you see? Yeah. Let's see. Okay, excellent. So you can see that there are 3 people whose videos are showing. So I'm Nisha, hi. And you see that there's also Aliyah and Sindhu. So we will be guiding your session today. So I'm going to present the slides, Aliyah. Just tell me when you would like me to forward the slides. And then Aliyah will be our lead instructor today. And then Sindhu and I are here to help her with the exercises as well. So I'm going to put it into presentation mode, Aliyah, okay?
Okay.
And please take it away.
Okay, so I'm just going to start by saying, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I know it's a Sunday. I'm sure you guys are delighted to be here today. So I appreciate your time, because I know our time is really valuable. So I'm going to start. I'm a teacher myself, and we always ask our students to do Bellwork. So I'm just going to get us to start thinking about this question. So the first thing I would like for you to do is in the chat box, I want you to spend just a few minutes. I want you to share a unique tool, app, or strategy that you use in your classroom to enhance learning. Briefly, tell me how you use it and why you think it helps your students. So something that I use, because I always model what I expect my students to do, is, I've started using Flipgrid. So for those learners that struggle with presentations, if they're kind of nervous presenting in front of a big audience, I'll ask them to actually record their presentation on Flipgrid. And then that way, that takes away the barrier and they can also participate in the discussion. So that's something that I use. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a few minutes to answer that question for me before we proceed. And then Nisha and Sindhu, if there's any questions in the chat, you can monitor that for me. That would be fantastic.
Yes, I'm doing that now. Thank you, Aliyah.
Thank you. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to answer that, and hopefully we can share some ideas with each other. I don't know how to freeze this. So I'll give you a couple of minutes for that. Hey, Tessin, I like your example. So answer every question with a question. That's awesome.
By the way, I think that the people might be sending the answers directly to you. Oh no, actually good. It looks like
Can you guys see it? Yep. I think you can join. So we'll give you a few more minutes.
Okay, so there was also another one, which was interactive math animations.
Okay. So we have Jamboard, Nearpod. I've used Nearpod, Google Sheets. It's awesome. Yep. Okay, someone's using iSpring software.
Yeah, so there's a question about whether there's a separate place where we can see this discussion. If you send your messages to everyone and not just a panelist, then everyone will be able to see it. So I would encourage everyone to send their messages to not just panelists, but panelists and attendees as well.
And if you're not sure how to do that, I think there's 3 little dots. If you click on that, that should let you do it. Okay, Seesaw, excellent. So we have lots of great examples. I'll give you a few more minutes and then we'll get started. This is just to kind of get us comfortable using the chat and sharing resources and ideas with each other. So I'll give you a few more minutes. So we'll give you 1 more minute and then we'll go ahead and start the session. That's awesome. So Shanika has said that she uses, I think it's Nime. I've never heard of that before, but I think that sounds interesting. It's easy to use and it's free to teach data science. That sounds awesome.
Nime is a very nice tool that you can use to build pipelines. Okay. So thank you for suggesting that.
Yep, thank you. We'll give you 1 more minute. Okay, awesome.
There's another comment about MIT App Inventor. I will also comment on that a little bit later. You can definitely do a lot of, connect a lot of cool AI stuff to apps that are built with App Inventor as well as other things.
Thank you. I would agree. The virtual teaching was challenging, but I think it was also really rewarding as well. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for all those suggestions. We're going to go ahead and get started. And if you have anything to add, please feel free to add that to the chat because I know that we can all learn from each other. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So Nisha, whenever you're ready to move on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are our objectives or learning intentions for today. So we're going to briefly discuss what artificial intelligence is. We're going to learn how to teach AI at different grade levels. We're also going to share what we've done here with AIClub and how we teach that. We're going to complete some hands-on exercises that you can take away and use in your classroom today. And then at the end, we would like to offer you, a PD certificate for attending this session today. And there'll be an opportunity to sign up using a Google form, and we'll send those PDs out to you.
Next.
So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. So I'm one of the trainers today. I've had 8 years of teaching and coaching, both at the local and high school level. So originally, I started off teaching in England. So I have international experience, and I taught in England for 10 years. I was the head of faculty for my department there. I'm currently teaching at middle school. I teach family and consumer science. I'm also an AI educator, and I develop curriculum both for STEM and my current family and consumer science course. So I have a wealth of experience. I'm going to ask Miss Nisha to introduce herself to you in a second.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Nisha. I started out life as a computer science engineer or a software engineer. Still am. I do a lot of building of, well, maybe not as much coding anymore, but so that's where my experience comes from. A variety of computer science, about 7 of it in artificial intelligence. I've helped thousands of kids build AIs and learn about AIs, and I'm an AI teacher at AIClub. Sindhu, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sindhu. So I am an engineer also who in machine learning algorithms. So I have experience building a lot of different types of AIs. And at AI Club, I have helped many students to be able to build these services. And I also develop curriculums for AIClub, bringing something that is considered complex and making it simpler for kids to like understand. That's something that I'm passionate about and really enjoy doing.
And as we're presenting, if there's any pertinent questions that you have and we are not able to get to, if you type them in the chat, later on we'll try and answer them, and then we'll send the information to you, because we want to make sure that this is as useful to you as possible. Miss Nisha and Miss Sindhu, as I present, if there's anything that I missed or you feel that's super important, please feel free to interject.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then I think one attendee asked a question about whether the session will be recorded. Absolutely. So the session is being recorded. So don't worry about taking notes or anything like that. Everything that we present today will be available to you later.
Okay. So I think we're ready to go ahead and get started. So, yep. So the first thing that I'm going to get you to do is to do a Padlet activity. So, rather than me regurgitating the information to you, I thought it would be interesting to actually see what you already know. I'm going to see if I can share the Padlet link in the chat. So let's see if we can make that happen. Let's see. I'm going to see. Here we go. Okay, awesome. So Miss Nisha, is there any way we can share the Padlet link? Give me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can figure this out.
Hold on a second. I think, yeah, I've been, hopefully you guys can see that I clicked on the Padlet on the slide, and I was able to get there. So I'm just putting the link now.
Perfect.
So everybody, if you go to the chat, you should be able to see a link, and just go ahead and click on that.
Okay, and this is what you should see. If you've never used Padlet before, it's super simple. If you click on this pink plus, it should allow you to respond. And there's a couple of icons where you can insert an image to kind of highlight what you're trying to tell us. You can type text, etc.
So I think maybe, Aliyah, if you share your own screen with the Padlet, as you add things, it'll be easier for them to see how you're adding it. How about that?
Okay, I think that sounds great. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up the Padlet. I have a QR code if you need it, and this is what it looks like. Okay, excellent. So the first question that we would like for you to answer is, why do computers exist? What is artificial intelligence? And why do you think it's important for our children to know this? If you hit this pink plus here, this comes up. If you want to put a title, you can. You can write something here to answer the question. It's going to allow you to, if you want to take a snapshot, you can insert an image, etc. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to go ahead and answer that question. And if you're having issues, please let me know. And then I'm going to monitor the chat. Nisha, if there's any issues with the Padlet, please let me know, because I'm just on this big screen here.
No problem. I think so far there's nothing.
Okay, good.
I'm monitoring the chat as well as the Q&A.
Perfect. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to just compile your thoughts. I don't want to rush you. And I like music, so I'm just going to put music on in the background. I'm going to turn this down. So give me a second. Excellent. You guys have some great ideas here. Thank you so much for sharing. And what I'm really interested in is, why do you think it's important for our children to know about AI? So think if you have children, why is it important for them to know this? Okay, excellent.
By the way, Aliyah, I think if you click the update button, you'll see also other people's
responses.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, there you go. Oh, excellent. I don't know what this is. I'm going to mute this because we don't want to hear this. Okay. There's a scientific, okay. Okay, some fantastic ideas. So I'm just going to update so you can kind of see what other people have put. Yeah, I agree. Humans are lazy. Okay, excellent. It can make our lives easier. I'm going to update so you guys can see. And I'll give you a few more minutes because I'm sure we want to go ahead and get started. Okay, I'll give you one more minute. And if I'm going too quick, just please tell me to slow down. Because I know that, in the classroom, it can be frustrating if someone's going too quickly. So I'm not going to be offended. Just tell us. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back to the original slide deck because I am conscientious of time. And then we're going to go ahead and start the session. Thank you so much for your excellent ideas here. So, the question that we are exploring is, what is artificial intelligence? And all of you had some amazing suggestions, so thank you for that. Just simplifying it, AI is a computer program which can perform a task that needs intelligence, such as planning, learning, problem solving. It's very similar to the human brain. The way I explain this to the students that I teach at AIClub is, I ask them to put their hands up, and we do it virtually in the chat, if they've heard of Pac-Man. I'm very old, and that's a game that, I've played before. And I just say, or if they enjoy playing computer games. And everyone in the chat will raise their hands because they all love playing computer games because they're immersed by it. And, I talk to them about Pac-Man. So it's a game that takes place in a maze. And the players control the Pac-Man who needs to eat all those little dots. The 4 ghosts have their own personality, and that personality is controlled by a central AI system. Another example that I give, and students, some of my students love soccer. In England, we call it football. So right now in England, we have a major tournament going on, which is the Euro 2020. And I ask if they have played computer games before, and FIFA is an example of AI intelligence, because the opposite team is controlled by an artificial intelligence computer. I've also used Quick Draw, and I ask the kids if they enjoy Pictionary. Most of them always say yes. And example of Quick Draw would be where we draw, and the AI has to guess what your drawing is. So these are just examples of different types of AI, and we're going to do another teacher Padlet because I want you to share your ideas with us. So I'm going to see if we can share this Padlet. Nisha, do you want me to do it? Do you want to share the Padlet? Hopefully it works. Yep. So similar to what we've done before, we're going to put this in the chat. And the question that I'm asking is, what AI are you aware of that you or your students have interacted with on a daily basis? And I've given you some examples of, Pac-Man, the game FIFA, or Quick Draw. Is there anything else that you can think of that, you've interacted with or your students use on a daily basis? And we'll give you a few minutes to answer that. Excellent. Thank you.
You can share your screen with the Padlet, Alias.
What was that, Nisha?
Well, I was going to say, I think you can share your screen with the Padlet.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second.
You can drive.
I'm going to share my screen with you. Here we go. And I'm going to see if I can update that Padlet. So give me a second. And let me know if you can see my share. Just give me a thumbs up, Nisha. So give me a second.
Yeah, I can see it.
I'm going to turn this down. Let me turn my music down so we can actually hear each other. That would be very useful. Here, I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, so Siri, asking how to spell words. Excellent. Google Assistants. We have Alexa, Jarvis. Yep. Those chatbots are so frustrating, especially when you have a question. I get Amazon. I use it all the time, and I'm like, I want to speak to a person. Yep, excellent. I don't know if I can update this. So I'll give you a few more minutes. You guys are coming up with amazing examples of when we use this in our daily lives. Yep. Okay, who is this? Yep. Okay.
Yes, so we see language translation, identifying spam in our email boxes. So lots of good variety here.
Yep.
Alexa, Siri, Google Home, yeah, all of that.
Yeah, excellent. Yep, Spotify.
Spotify, very good, yes.
Oh, yep, self-driving cars. I know you're going to say that. Excellent. Video games. Alexa, I'll give you another 10 seconds and we'll get going. You guys have come up with some excellent examples where you've seen or you've interacted with AI. Alexa, Google Home, yeah, quick draw. Yeah, excellent, thank you. Okay, I like the fact that we're getting lots of different perspectives from lots of different countries. So here, Sri Lanka, AI is not developed. So, you know, just Google Translator, Jarvis, Siri. So this is really interesting, just to look at the differences between nations. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you haven't finished typing, please go ahead and continue sharing. You know, I think that's really useful for each of us to see what you are familiar with. So thank you so much for that. So I'm going to go back to the PD, and hopefully that was enough time for you to go, you know, for you to answer that question. So you guys have come up with lots of different types of AI, which is fantastic. So examples that I know with the different types of AI is used to recognize images. We can use AI to play games, you know, to classify and group different objects, etc. So we're going to go ahead and we've kind of looked at what is AI. We're going to discuss why should our children learn artificial intelligence. We're going to do some basic activities that we've used at AIClub. Our goal is to match grade level concepts. We're going to share some of the projects that our students have utilized and produced and created in AIClub. We're going to provide some resource overviews, and again, similar to what we've said earlier, at the end, we're going to give you the tools to sign up and receive your certification for attending this PD. So here are some examples, and we kind of said this when our kids have used AI, artificial intelligence. So, you know, if you think about Google Maps and ride-hailing apps, that is machine learning. So those algorithms remember edges of buildings. They're taught to understand and identify traffic patterns. I went to the Gulf Shores, and I've also flown back to England. And when I've flown back, especially at Heathrow Airport, you know, I don't really need my passport. I can use face detection recognition to pass through those customs. Another example that we've stated is autocorrect. It's really frustrating when you're trying to type and it's automatically going to correct you know, what you're trying to type. That's happened to me on several occasions. That's another example of artificial intelligence. That's where linguists and computer scientists have worked together to teach the machine grammar. That data is fed to the machine and it organizes that data. Another example is Netflix. I know I was watching Netflix last night. I love cooking shows. And once that show had ended, it kind of gave me lots of other examples of other shows that I may be interested in. So our kids interact with AI without knowing. My daughter, another example, she's 3 and she'll say, "Hey Siri, please play," or "Alexa, please play Bubble Guppies," and it's automatically gonna do it. So our kids are interacting with AI, and it's really important that they understand how to use it effectively.
Yeah, so one thing I just wanted to add there is,
Yes.
when my daughter was 9, she's 12 now, but when my daughter was 9, she told me that she didn't think she was ever going to need to get a driver's license because she thought that by the time she turned 17, all cars would be self-driving. But she also thought this meant she needed to pay attention because the way she put it is, if I was driving, I know what I'm thinking. Who knows what that car is thinking?
That is true.
I think it's very important that kids really be able to appreciate these devices, and they have some awareness that they are sort of very interactive and interesting, but they're not human. So I just thought I'd share that.
No, thank you for that. Why should, the main question and the reason why we're here is, we want to look at why should our children learn artificial intelligence? And, Nisha and I have given lots of examples. I'm sure you're aware of this. It's our duty as parents they interact with this technology, but the question that I always ask is, do they really know how to use it and when to use it effectively? Like my daughter, she can interact with Siri or Alexa, but our job is to teach them how to use it effectively. Why should kids learn AI? And there's a lot of ethical questions that go along with this. And we have privacy issues that arise. And I think, we all know this, as our children are getting older, technology is becoming more advanced. So the jobs that they have may not exist today. So it's our job as parents and educators to make our children the best they can be. So I think, them being immersed in this technology, actually understanding how to use it is really, really important. Nisha, I don't know if you want to add anything else into that from your experience.
No, I think you covered it really well. Thank you, Leah. Yeah.
No worries. Okay. So I'm going to kind of talk about our experiences. So at AIClub, we have over 3,000 students from grades 3 to 12, with even some in grades 1 and 2. Kids can learn AI at different levels, depending on how much math and coding they have learned. So we have lots of wealth of experience. Our students at AIClub have built thousands of apps. We've identified problems, and we've also identified solutions to those problems. Anything else you want to add here, Nisha?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is that I think one really important thing that we've got from this experience is that kids are really able to appreciate the essence of these technologies. And so the reason I'm kind of pointing that out is that there's a lot of sense out there in the world that this is something that only people with PhDs understand, right? And this is like some weird computer science experts that nobody can understand what they're saying and stuff like that. And so what happens is that on one side, the algorithms are quite complicated and they are hard to understand, but it's not required that people understand them to understand the essence. So the essence of stuff like, how do these, technologies learn? How can they work? How do they make mistakes? How can those mistakes be fixed? And how do they interact with your own information and your privacy? These are things that, people can appreciate, and therefore, kids can appreciate. And so what we have learned from coming across these, various age groups is that we've come to appreciate that, first of all, the creativity of children just never ceases to amaze me, and the fact that, if you give them something, they come up with ways to use it that frankly don't occur to us because they're fearless. Right? And they're fearless and they're imaginative. And if something occurs to them, they just do it. And they can appreciate the essence of like, well, I'm not comfortable with the fact that this AI knows the following thing about me, right? So they have their own independent opinions. And then depending on what grade they are in, definitely the technical depth varies. So we've sort of learned that the concepts can be appreciated across a really wide range of grade levels, but the details do differ. You don't provide, super heavy math to a fourth grader. However, if you're teaching a high schooler, they really, do have the ability to appreciate things at a much greater depth and definitely, and then benefit from that, teaching. So that I think is really what I would take away from it. So.
And then, I'm going to share my experience with you. I've been an educator for AIClub for the past year or so. And my background is family and consumer science. And I remember when I first started teaching, I was just like, am I going to be able? Am I going to be capable? But one thing I've learned is we ask our children to take risks. And our job as an educator is sometimes we are afraid, but once we start using this technology, that fear is taken away. So that's my experience. I've really enjoyed, teaching for AIClub. And I think sometimes the things that we fear the most are the things that allow us to grow the most. So, that's my 2 cents with regards to that. And then we're going to move on. So I'm going to see if I can move on to the next slide. So I'm going to kind of tell you the approach that we take at AIClub. So based on my teaching, when I teach AI literacy to students, we use the hands-on and top-down approach. So we start with the problem, and then we ask the students to identify solutions to the problem. So we don't give the answer straight away. Similar to, think about when you have a new phone. You don't know how to use this technology, but once you start tinkering with the phone and you start learning about, okay, this works, this is not working, this is what I need to do to problem solve this, and you become more competent. So when we are teaching AI literacy to students, we use the hands-on project-based learning, because we find that that's when they actually have the most growth. So in the first 30 minutes, they actually interact with the AI technology at AIClub. So they're allowed to tinker with it. They're allowed to make mistakes. And then we reflect. So we look at, okay, what do we learn from this technology? What was useful? An example I can give you is I taught a lesson where I was teaching, my background is middle and high school. I was teaching elementary school students. And we were looking at the technology that detected mood, whether we're happy or sad, and they use the algorithm provided by AIClub. And then we looked at real world applications. So it's trying to take their learning, but to make those deeper connections. So we looked at when can we use this technology? And some of the students came up with some amazing examples. Like one of the boys said that, because of COVID, the elderly are super isolated. So wouldn't it be cool if we took this technology and maybe made it more advanced, tinkered around with it, and those elderly individuals that are isolated, that AI could tell them how they're feeling and then maybe provide resources. And I thought that was super intelligent. The students learn concepts linked to AI. So we look at, how did this AI work? What were some of the issues that we found? We always try and use real life examples. And then at the end, once they've become familiar with this technology, they try and create their own AI and something that they're interested in. So I know that when I was teaching this at the elementary level, the students were asked to think of an animal that was unique. And then they had to come up with a data set linked to that animal. So we had students, that picked a jaguar, and then they were creating their AI. So someone who was trying to use it that was new to this, that didn't know about this animal, could learn from this. Anything else that you want to add there, Nisha?
No, I think you covered that really well. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. So here are some examples of what we have done at AIClub. The first one I love because I am from England. I am a huge Harry Potter fan. But the reason why we want to share these examples with you is that you can see the spectrum. So this is a student that created an AI linked to Hogwarts, and the bottom is Shreya, and she created her own AI which deals with breast cancer. So two completely different perspectives. I'm just going to make sure that my background music is muted so we can share these links, these examples with you. So give me 1 second. I want to make sure that there's no weird music on in the background. So let me move this, and give me 1 second. What have I done here? Sorry.
Yeah. If you need me to play it, Alia, I can do that as well.
Okay. And once I figure this out, thank you.
No problem. So we're going to play these videos now so that you can kind of hear from the kids' own words, sort of what they built, as well as what what they sort of learned from what they built. Hold on, I'm just
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll start with Johnny, who did the Hogwarts AI. So I'm going to load up his video and then play it. So these videos are all each about 2 minutes. So.
Hello, everyone. I'm Johnny, and I made my project to see what house you would be in if you went to the Hogwarts house, Witchcraft and Wizardry, in the Harry Potter series. So my project, it says what house you're in depending on 3 inputs that you give it. Your traits, so whether you're kind, whether you're evil, whether you're short, tall. Your favorite animal, because during the series, there are many animals that one house specifically favored over another. And your favorite color, because in the books, it showed how one certain house was given a certain color in the house color. So I had 100% accuracy, as you can see over here, at 100% in the naval classifier, then voice classifier, and the NLP classifier. In the confusion matrix, it's all balanced out. They're all in the teams, and so my data set, it wasn't too biased to one house or another. If you want to test it out, then click there. So you can put in a trait of yourself. Any of you parents want to try it?
Yeah, does anyone want to try it?
Critical thinking.
Critical, okay. What's your favorite animal?
Lion.
And your color?
It's spaced out of this.
And Gryffindor.
Yay! Good job. Thank you, Johnny. Good job. Yes, and so there's a questions about whether it's possible to get some of these videos to share. Absolutely, we will, provide. Yes, I'm just putting that in. Absolutely, we can definitely share those. So this was one of the videos, and you can kind of see, this is sort of, and some of the kids really like to build fun things that are they're passionate about, books they've read, things like that. And then other students, apply more of kind of like a STEM, type of approach. So now the second one that we're going to play is from Shreya. So you'll see that she's a bit older, and she is more science oriented, and she built an AI that is used to detect breast cancer. So let me go ahead and click on Shreya's video. Thank you for the link, Sindhu. And I'm going to share my screen and play that for you guys.
Hi, my name is Shreya, and I'm in 7th grade. And my project is breast cancer detection using an AI service. So I was trying to study how advances in computer science can help with early detection of breast cancer. Here's my procedure. I collected histopathology images from CAP. I then used a free tool called Navigator available at the AIClub website to upload these images and create a deep neural network for the classification of cancer in benign or healthy images. After that, I tried several hyperparameters of the deep neural network to tune it for high performance. By doing this, I was able to get accuracies ranging from 70 to 95%. I took a look at the confusion matrix of the classifier. And the goal was to reduce the false negatives because you don't want to miss even a single person having cancer. In addition to using the confidence values output by the AI service, I also plotted something called an ROC curve, which is a very popular and highly used metric for analyzing this kind of binary classification. I used it right over here. So by analyzing the data and working on it for several weeks, I learned that it is very hard to tune a deep neural network, especially when two categories are hard to tell apart, such as cancer and benign. Getting high-performing AI services with even the latest and greatest tools today takes a lot of time. I also learned about so many different types of data for cancer and how an AI service trained on one type cannot be used for another. I learned that having a huge amount of data always helps the AI service to perform better as well. So what would I like to do with this information? First, I would like to make it available for the public to get feedback. And second, I would like to make it available to some physicians to get their feedback as well.
So that was, I think, the second video. So, so you can kind of see through this sort of the spectrum of things that kids can do with AI, and and you can also see that as they get older. So yeah, the next question is, what are the trends in AI? Sorry. And then the next thing you can see is that as they get older, the projects become more sophisticated, not just in the topics that they address, but also how they address them. So Shreya's presentation went into much more depth. It is already incorporating more advanced concepts in AI, like ROC curves, but you can also see that Johnny has a really good grasp of the essence of it, right? And he applied it in fun, but he also knows whether or not his AI worked. He knows that it's balanced. All of these are kind of very good things. So hopefully that gives you a feel for the, the kind of stuff that kids can learn. Yeah, go ahead, Aliyah. Would you like me to share, or would you like?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen with you again, and then we'll continue. The other thing that, I would like to piggyback from that, as you can see from both of those sessions, it really highlights our approach to teaching at AIClub. So both of these students start with a problem in mind that they would like to solve. Then they test their problem, and then they analyze the data to see whether they were able to successfully solve that problem or not. So at AIClub, we really use a project-based approach where the students are asked to identify real-world problems or real-world interests that they have. And I know certainly from my teaching, if the students are given a choice, they are more engaged. If you think about ourselves, if we're given a choice in terms of the project that we can select, then we're probably more likely to work harder. And with AIClub, that's what we do. We give them a choice to investigate something that they're really passionate about, and then we find that their results show dividends. So I'm going to go ahead and, these were the two excellent examples from our students. So in our next session, we want to introduce you to some of the exercises that we've done. We're going to talk to you about some of the grade level concepts that we cover. We'll briefly discuss some of the projects that the students have done, and then we'll provide you with a resource overview. So the first exercise, and then Ms. Nisha tell me, I'd like some help here, is something that we have done is we've asked the elementary students to look at artwork, and then we've discussed artificial intelligence in terms of deep fakes. So we've looked at using art and music to create deep fakes, and whether this is good or bad. I know our students are very young, but I asked them, do you know? They don't know. Do you know what Facebook is? They're too young, or Snapchat. And I asked them, have you ever heard, and they probably don't, Mark Zuckerberg brag about having control of millions of people's data? Or high schoolers, Jon Snow is really disappointed with the ending, where he's apologized for the appalling ending of Game of Thrones. And this is an example of deep fakes. It's just essentially 21st century issues where we use photoshopping. And this AI is known as deep learning, and it's where we make images of fake events. We discuss why this could be good or bad. Example that I can give is from the UK. So last year we had the chief of the UK subsidiary who paid nearly 200,000 into a Hungarian fake bank account. So someone was calling this individual and they were pretending to be from this German energy firm, and they actually wired the money across. So that's an example of deep fake learning. Here, Nisha, is there anything else?
Yeah,
Yes.
so what we'll do now is we will go ahead and do this exercise. And I really think the important thing, we're going to do this in a fairly general way, but along the way, we'll try to explain how this exercise can be used at different grade levels. So if you think about it, like at an elementary grade level, it's really more of, hey, AI can make art, and they make some gorgeous art. So one thing I had a student do last week is she uploaded a picture she had actually drawn, a watercolor that she had actually drawn, which she used as a style inspiration for the AI. And then she took a photograph of her favorite teddy bear. And then she had the AI render the teddy bear in the style of the watercolor, which was really lovely. And so they can create some very unique things. And then we have them explore, real deep fakes created by AIs. And so at the elementary level, it's really about explaining that AIs can do this and then having them appreciate that, okay, this could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. It's kind of, would you like it if someone, created a picture of you, with a hat that you didn't like, right? Stuff like that. When it comes to middle school, it's really much more about appreciating that there are ethical issues here and appreciating that this is how fake news gets created and things like that. With high school, you really want them to appreciate not just this, but also the idea that how are these created? There's an AI technology called a GAN, right? And they get an introduction into how GANs work. They also find out that Facebook, for example, and Google and other companies have massive data sets that are there to help you detect deepfakes and what are the approaches that are used. And so right now, for example, we have an advanced middle schooler and a high schooler who are actually building deepfake detectors. And so that is, kind of the way that this idea of and this exercise can progress. And so as a teacher, depending on, how old your students are and what their awareness is, you can kind of figure out where on the spectrum you want to place this exercise. So what we're going to do now is start with the exercise so you guys can run it. Sindhu, would you be able to lead it? We can start with the style gym and then work our way to this person does not exist.
So I've just stopped sharing the screen, Sindhu, so you can take over if you need it, and I'll monitor the chat.
Okay, so we are going to start by sharing the link, right, Nisha, for this?
Yes.
First?
So share the link for the style gym and then have all the teachers try it out.
Okay. So I'm going to send it to everyone, panelists and attendees. So that's the gym. So the first thing I'll do is share my screen and explain how this works. I think it's pretty intuitive. So this is the link that I have pinged everyone. So I'll wait for everyone to be able to open another browser tab and go to this link. So essentially what this does is you can upload two images. One is the image that you want, and the other one is the style in which you would like this image to be in. And you could upload your own images or use one from a range of images that are already provided. So the first thing that I'm going to do is simply click on combine. So I haven't uploaded anything, I haven't selected anything. I'm just trying to combine these two images to show how an AI can render this image in the style of this image. And later we can, try out all the different options. So you can see that it's basically the same image, but it has been rendered in the style of this image. And the AI which is used behind it is a style transfer AI, which is based on deep learning, like Aliyah said. We are also going to look at some variations in this AI after this exercise. So you can click on a plus icon, let me click on it again, which you can see here. And you can select from a range of images that we have over here, or you can take your own picture, or you can select a file from your computer if there is an image that you care about. Like one of our students basically took an image of her own watercolor. So this one I think is the MIT building. I'm going to click that. And then for style again, there are so many different styles that are already provided over here. which you can select from, or you can upload an image from here, or you can, randomize it. So even the style image is something that you can upload from your computer. So I'm simply going to click on an existing one. So these are two other completely different kinds of images. And we are going to ask the AI to combine them. So what we should see here is basically this image, but in the style of this one. So I can give everyone a little bit of time to kind of try it out and see what you think about it.
And if you're having any issues, if you just type in the chat and we'll help you.
Yeah.
Someone's asking to share the link again. I'll see if I can do that now. Okay, give me a second. Okay, I'm going to put the link again in the chat because I think someone was asking for that. Thank you. And it doesn't matter if you don't get it the first time. It's similar to our students. The more you tinker around with it, the more comfortable and confident you're going to get. So just know that this technology is out there at AIClub, and the students love to use it.
So what I did here is just took a screenshot of myself, and yay, that can be a Facebook post or an Instagram image.
You took a stylistic shot of yourself? Oh yeah, I see that. Yes.
Yeah. It's kind of like how you apply filters in Instagram as well. You can style your images in a lot of these apps that are out there, and they may use slightly different things, but it's based on the same fundamental technology.
So we'll give you a few more minutes and then we'll move on to the next exercise, because we are aware of time constraints. So just mess around with some of the images. And if you have any issues, just type in the chat and we'll answer the questions.
And for those of you who teach at a higher grade level, we basically will send you in the because we don't have a lot of time in this session, we are going to try to cover as many live exercises as possible. What we will do is send you in the email that will follow some of the concepts and videos that we teach for high schoolers, where we explain some of the technical details of how this is and how to build a deepfake detector if they want to. So there's a question of, is this AI made by someone? Yes, so this AI is an advanced type of artificial intelligence called a generative adversarial network. And yeah, Sindhu, who built the particular GAN that we're using? Do you remember? We didn't build it ourselves.
No, we did not. I think we are using an API from Google TensorFlow.
Yes.
But it, like, a lot of people have tried this. For example, we will watch some videos where NVIDIA came up with some deep fakes, etc. So there are a lot of companies who are kind of working in the broader field of adversarial networks. So there is the company that comes up with the model, and then several companies might implement that model in their own cloud. For example, like Google might do it, and then someone else might.
Yeah. So we'll provide those technical details in a follow-up. But I think Sindhu is going to play another video that basically showcases how the advanced companies like NVIDIA deploy this technology in a variety of ways. So, okay, and it's a technique called a style GAN. And so this is something that we also show. Typically, it's shown to more of our middle school and high school students so that they can kind of appreciate the next level of depth of how flexible this technology can be.
So this is a long video. I'm not going to play all, sorry. I'm not going to play all of it. I'll play maybe 2 minutes at the most, or 2.5 minutes, something like that, in the interest of time. But we'll provide the link. So it's a general video by NVIDIA, which is a company known for manufacturing hardware, using which a lot of these sophisticated AIs are built. It's a really nice video, so we'll share the links for that. But right now, I'm not going to play all of it. It's about 6 minutes total. I'll just play like the first 2 minutes. So one thing to note in this video is all of these are not real faces. They are all artificially generated faces. And here you can kind of tell there are like little things that are a little bit off in some of the images, but some images you can't really tell that they're not real images. So all of these are synthetic images. So a way to think about it is combining this image with this image gets you this image. Combining this image with this image gets you this one. And combining this with this image gets you this image, and so on. So they keep changing this image, and they'll show you what you get by superimposing two. So I'm going to stop about here. Actually, the whole video is super interesting. They'll tell you a little bit more about how these things were generated, how they superimpose. But the gym that we just tried of style transfer kind of works on the same fundamental kind of technology.
Good. I think we can move now to the second exercise. And then once we get into the grade level matching, we'll take each of the exercises and sort of comment on, how these can be rolled out at different levels of depth for different grade levels.
So I think I'm sharing my screen with you, and the ladies are going to help me run the exercise. So exercise 2 is something that I've used when I've taught, and that's where we look at an AI that we use at AIClub, and we teach the AI to make predictions. So the elementary class that I taught, and I gave that example earlier, we were looking at how, if we were to type some sentences such as, I went to visit my grandma today, would the AI be able to detect whether that is happy or sad? And then we also look at whether that AI has missed any information. So what are some of the problems with the data set? Why could the AI be incorrect? So when I've taught this personally myself, and this is a technology that I've utilized with the students at AIClub, we use it hands-on. We enter sentences, and then the AI then makes predictions. Then we analyze the data and see what were some of the mistakes that the AI made, and then after we've identified those mistakes, then we retrain the AI to make it better, similar to a human brain. Like this morning, I was teaching my son, he plays Prodigy, and then he was asking me, hey, what's 6 times 7? And then I broke that problem down. And then we looked at some of the mistakes that he was making, and then some of the strategies that we can use to stop those mistakes from happening. And that's the approach that we use when we're teaching AI to elementary school kids, is we look at the data, we look at the mistakes, and then we look at how can we retrain the AI to make it better. So this is the next exercise that we're going to do. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll be building a sentiment analysis AI, like Aliyah said. So in order to do that, we will need to go to this link. I'm going to ping the link on chat.
And Sindhu, I can monitor and let you know, how many signups I see, okay?
Sounds good, yeah, thank you. So this is the link. So when you click on the link, it will take you to a screen that looks like this. So this is where we are going to build our AI and interact with it and try it out. So for this, basically, you would need to get an account. So when you click on login, it'll basically, I'm logged in, so it takes me to this screen, but I'm going to log out here.
It's at the bottom, yeah.
Yeah. The chat is like overlapping it. So you can sign in with Google or create an account. So all of those things work. Any way you would like to log in is completely fine. You can just simply click on this button and then you don't have to do anything. So I already have an account. So I'm going to log in using my account. And if anyone has issues with this process, please let me know.
So please go ahead and sign up so that you can run the exercise live. We'll give you a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to see the signups come in. If you already signed up, I know some of you have signed up earlier, just feel free to log in as Sindhu had said. And if you have any questions, please put them on the chat so that we can help you. All right, I think Sindhu, we can probably get started. If anybody is still signing up, just please go ahead and sign up and just, you can follow along.
So once you have logged in, you know that you have logged in if you see an icon over here, something that looks like this in a circle on the top right corner. So when you click on that, the first option from the browser is from the drop down is go to Navigator. So please click on Go to Navigator. This is just a tool that will enable you to build several different kinds of AIs, and we are going to explore the sentiment analysis AI today. So clicking on that takes you to a screen that looks like this. And I can show this process again. So clicking on this will take you to a screen that looks like this one. If anyone has trouble getting to this screen, please let us know. Okay, so I hope, everyone was able to do this. So you see a bunch of options on the screen. So this is the Navigator tool. And what we are going to do today is basically create an AI service. So click on the button that says create an AI service, and you can give it any name that you would like. I'm going to call it Mood Analyzer. When you click submit, it takes you to a screen that looks like this. So the process of building an AI has several stages, and essentially we'll walk you through all of these stages in the process of building this AI. So the data is located in the cloud. So all of your accounts come preloaded with these data sets, and all the data is in the cloud, which means you don't have to worry about installing anything on your computer, downloading anything. So all of those things are kind of taken care of. And this we have seen as being very easy, especially when you are teaching over Zoom, but even in a live classroom, not having to deal with the operating system of what computer a student might have, and not asking them to install anything makes the whole process very smooth, so that they can focus on learning the AI concepts rather than thinking about why doesn't this install, where do I find my file, which folder did it get downloaded to. So that's the advantage of using this approach, where all you need is a Chrome browser. So like I said, the data set comes preloaded. Please select on Simple Storage Service. So this is basically folders on the cloud. That's the way to think about it. It's on the Amazon cloud. And the folder is AIClub datasets. So these are the datasets that come preloaded by default with every single AIClub account. So we are going to select that. Then it asks which file would you like to use. So there are a ton of preloaded datasets that come with AIClub. So today we are going to do the mood dataset. So please, there are several projects within each dataset. We'll be exploring just one of them in this exercise. So for that, please select mood underscore project underscore 3.csv. I'm going to keep the screen this way because I know you'll need to like switch between tabs, etc. And I don't want to be like too fast. I'm going to pause here so that you can kind of switch back and forth and make this selection. Okay, so we are going to select Mood Project 3.csv. The moment you select it, what you'll notice is there is a small preview of the dataset. It's only like the top 10 examples. This dataset actually contains about 300 examples, and the dataset was created by crowdsourcing from a bunch of high school students who basically filled out a sheet with their ideas of what happy and sad examples are. So this is a very kid-friendly data set created by high school students. And here, this just gives you a small preview into the data set. So the next thing that we are going to do is click on this orange button that says import dataset. So this tells Navigator that the AI that we created, Mood and Analyzer, is going to be using this dataset. Now, another thing to notice about the dataset, you have two columns called feeling and sentence. And you can see there are only two types of feelings in this dataset, which is happy and sad. So this is the starter dataset that we are going to use. And there are several different examples of each of these feelings. So we are going to call the feeling column the label, because this is basically what we want our AI to predict. So you should be able to type a sentence or a word or even a paragraph, and the AI should analyze it and predict if the sense or the emotion in that paragraph is happy or sad. So we're doing something really simple since this is a starter exercise. So the next step is we haven't yet told the AI what it needs to predict. So we know that it's supposed to predict feeling, but we haven't really given that information to the system yet for it to be able to train itself. So this asks, what would you like to predict? So we would like to predict the feeling. So the user will provide the sentence as an example, and the AI is supposed to predict feeling. So we do that and click apply. So what's going on this screen? So on this screen, basically the AI understands that, okay, I'm supposed to learn from this. This is the label that I'm supposed to predict given a bunch of sentences. And a thing about AIs is you can provide it image data, video data, sound data, CSV, like comma separated values, like a table that we have provided right now, etc. And within it, you can have sentences, categories, numbers, anything. In the background, it always converts all of these different types of data types into numbers because it can only process numbers. It cannot process other forms of data. So it will just take this data set, convert it all into numbers in this screen. And then on the third tab, this is where all the heavy lifting is going to happen. So this is where the AI is going to train. Since this is the first exercise we are doing, we are not going to explore all the different options which are there on this screen. We'll simply click on train.
And this is also a good point to point out sort of what different grade level matching is. Younger students fundamentally use a lot of the automation that is built into the platform, like Sindhu is showing you. Students who are older or more advanced in middle school and high school are able to control the algorithms and also tune the algorithms, as you saw Shreya do in her video. And then the other thing that you can see is that there's an orange button called generate code at the bottom, where kids who are typically in high school or advanced middle school can actually look at the code and figure out and download it for themselves and figure out, how it works and also change it natively at code level. So this is part of, what we will cover in a few minutes about how to sort of match with different grade levels.
Yes, sounds good. So all of this has a Python code behind it. You can take a look at the entire thing, the whole thing that we are doing, building the AI, by clicking on generate code. I'll not be doing that right now. We'll go to the next step. So it has trained, as you can see, and the process of training. So in AI, there are, of course, thousands of different types of algorithms. Based on the kind of problem, Navigator has automatically picked 3 algorithms that are appropriate for this kind of data set, and it has chosen one of them and deployed it. So the one that it chose has the highest performance, which is accuracy. It is 75% accurate. Now here again, like advanced grade levels, I think would look at many more metrics. There are a lot of things going on here. We'll go into them a little bit later. So for now, let's go to the monitor screen and interact with the AI. So that's a very obvious one. I mean, that's the first thing to try. But you can try other things like, feeling wonderful. See how that gave a prediction, which is set. So this is the place where we ask everyone to try different things and figure out what are the examples where the AI does not predict correctly. So I'm going to pause here for everyone to try their AIs with different sentences and see examples where the AI works and examples where the AI does not work. That is an excellent example. So there's an example on chat, not feeling too good today, and the prediction is happy. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So this AI basically looks at words and it knows the emotion associated with each word. When you have something like not feeling, that's not necessarily something like not feeling good is opposite of feeling good is something that this AI cannot do, which is an excellent point. Now, for example, it predicted incorrectly this. So what can I do about it? Which is the next questions all the students are going to ask you when you run this exercise. So please click on this tab called retrain. So you can actually provide feedback to the AI. So let me say again, the same thing, feeling wonderful. Let's see what it says. It's most likely going to say sad, right? Now in retrain tab, you have this option to tell that this prediction is wrong because this is a happy feeling. So I'm going to submit that feedback. I can do some other examples also. Have a headache, for example. Let's see what it thinks. Oh, it already thinks it's sad. Jumping with joy, maybe. Okay. There is a question. Do you feed it back into the data set to train the AI? Yes. So that's exactly what we are doing here. We are looking for examples where the AI is making mispredictions, and then we can say this prediction is wrong. Now, maybe I want to add an emotion. You can do that as well. That's a little bit more advanced, where I can say that I am frustrated, for example. So it thinks that's sad. So I can say this prediction is wrong, and I can add another category called frustrated. So that's also possible to do when you are happy with all the feedback that you have provided the AI at any point. In order for the AI to train using this new data set, using all of your feedback, you'll have to click on retrain. And when you do that, the AI has now trained successfully. And now if I give it the same examples, it is supposed to give me the right prediction. So it says frustrated. So let's say feeling wonderful again. And now it thinks it's happy. So it flipped from saying sad to happy now. So this is an exercise which we usually start with, and different depending on the grade level, we cover it at different depths. And usually kids have a lot of fun. They really like the fact that they're able to control the AI by providing more data to it. Now there are lots of different ways to tune, tweak, and control how an AI learns. This is the first method that we teach in our classes.
Yeah, so there is an actual question of not feeling too good today, cannot be retrained properly. So one of the things that the kids discover is that the word not is very hard for this AI to learn, because what to do with the word not depends a lot on where it is. So for example, if I type, I am happy, not sad, versus I am sad, not happy, how it interprets not depends very much on where it is relative to the other words. So this particular AI is very bad at sequence, and there are some much more advanced AIs that are good at sequence. And so some of the kids discover this fact, and then they learn that depending upon, what kind of AI they're using, sometimes it's not just the information, it's also the power of the AI. So as kind of Sindhu pointed out, so the kinds of things that we concept-wise that students appreciate from this is A, AIs learn, B, they learn from data. And so as a human, it's our responsibility to make sure that the data is good, because ultimately it will learn whatever the data says. And so if the data is biased, if the data is incorrect, if the data is limited, all of those will result in the AI, behaving in some suboptimal way. And so by training it, they understanding what it can do, and then retraining it, they really come to appreciate that cycle. And that is the cycle that works in real life. It's just that they see it in a very simple manner. Then other things are that, by trying out words like not and so forth, they kind of come to appreciate that there are some things like the subtleties of the sequence of words that are quite difficult for some AIs. And so there is a difference between simple AIs and advanced AIs, and this is one of those differences. So these are the kinds of things that, concept-wise, the kids come to appreciate. And then context-wise, we basically help them understand that this, in some simple way, is also what a digital assistant does. Is that, for example, if a digital assistant, if you ask it a question, then, after it has converted your voice to a sentence, this is the kind of thing that it does with the sentence, is it tries to understand what the words mean and what is it that you're trying to tell it. So that's sort of the next step in connecting this to the real world. So I think we're running a little short on time, so let's go to the next exercise real quick.
Okay, so.
I'm gonna let you, sorry, Sindhu, off you go.
No, go ahead, sorry. Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen, and I love to talk, so I'm gonna try and be quiet. So I think our next exercise, I'm gonna let Sindhu do this, is something that we kind of explore with with our children at AIClub, is we look at self-driving cars. We look at, how do they work? Have any of the students been in a self-driving car? And then we focus on the technology involved in self-driving cars. So Sindhu, I'm going to let you go ahead and take over.
Yes, I thought, Sindhu, that maybe play the 2-minute video overview of the Tesla, and then after that, do the TensorFlow images, Jim. Is that okay? Or were you thinking of doing something else? Okay.
Oh, sorry. I have the self-driving cars video, which I thought we are going to play. It does have, it basically gives an overview of how, as an example, how Tesla works. And then, yes, I have the object detection, Jim, as well.
Okay.
So I think that sounds good. So this is the one. Do let me know if you had something else in mind.
I was actually thinking that maybe we could play the autopilot video. I thought that might be,
Oh, the autopilot video. Yeah, I have that as well.
Okay. Yeah, so while you're looking for that and putting that up, so one of the things that we do is, because, self-driving cars are already on the road, we actually, find that it's very helpful for students to just see what it's like to be inside one. Now, what we find is across, geographies and across, if you're dealing with a group of kids in Silicon Valley, you'll find that most of them have at least been in a car and some of them own one. And so on the other hand, if you step out of that, then this is an area where really they haven't really seen one on the road, or they haven't really been in one. So it's a really wonderful experience for them to know, what does this thing actually look like? So this video was recorded, and we'll put a link to it on the, in the email later, but this video was recorded in the driver's seat of a self-driving car. So the kids get a really good feel for what are these cars and what do they do.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen and show the autopilot one. So is this the one you had in mind?
Yeah, this is the one I had in mind.
Okay, sounds good.
We are introducing how the Tesla autopilot works. We are right now on the freeway, and as you can see, the autopilot is not yet turned on. You can also see that the car is tracking the path that it needs to go in terms of direction. It is able to see the cars in front of it and the cars near it. Now we are going to start turning on the autopilot. Now the autopilot is on. The car is actually driving on its own. How can we tell that the autopilot is on? You see that little blue Tesla sign on the top right, 2 steps away from the speed indicator. It has now turned blue, which means that the autopilot is on. Note that even though the Tesla is an autopilot, it requires that you keep your hand on the wheel. Let's see what happens if you take your hand off the wheel. Let's see how long it will let you drive without the driver having the hand on the wheel. It's now asking you to apply some force on the steering wheel. You can now see that it starts to light up in blue. It's starting to get worried that you don't have your hand on the wheel. It's now starting to complain, and it will do so until you have put your hand back on the wheel. Now we will put our hand back on the wheel. You can see that it's happy again. This is an introduction to how the autopilot works.
Yeah, so that's, and then depending upon the, certainly not for the Indian roads. Yes, yes, I think, at least Sindhu and I have been on Indian roads, and I totally agree. Yes. So basically this is the kind of thing where when you look at it, yeah, the kids have all sorts of ideas, right? About will this work in their, in the environment where they are, how does it work? And then another good discussion to have with the kids is, why is it so important that the driver has the hand on the wheel? And some of that is just making sure the driver is alert and hasn't fallen asleep, but some of it is legal. If the car hits someone, ultimately we as humans haven't figured out how to handle that, because we need to blame someone. It's kind of in our nature. It's the way our world works. On the other hand, you can't just blame a car. What's the car going to do? So part of the reason to have the hand on the wheel is to make sure that the human responsibility is still intact. So these are the kinds of things that I think kids appreciate. And then, we typically, for advanced students, we dive into the technical details of how the different AIs work. Like there's object detection, there's navigation, there's stuff like that. And Sindhu is going to take you through just one of those exercises where we're going to do object detect. So Sindhu, you can use either the TensorFlow images gym or the object detect. I think images gym might be a little easier, but it's up to you. Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is ping that link to everyone. So this is the object classification gym. So we have several types, like you can detect objects, you can classify objects, etc. So we'll do the classification one over here. So the link that I have posted will take you to a screen that looks like this. So I'll give everyone a chance to get here, and I'll explain the different parts. It's pretty intuitive. So essentially what this is doing is you have an option of providing two different kinds of categories of images, and then an AI will learn to detect the difference between the two. Now this is a webcam based gym. You can do other things as well, but that's the exercise we are going to do now. And you can do several different kinds of things. A very popular one during this time is mask on and mask off, and see if the AI is able to detect that. So you can always edit the category. So I'm going to say no mask. I'll actually need to go and grab my mask. And I'm going to turn on my webcam and I'll just record myself. Like all different poses. So you just keep holding this button and that creates different images. We don't need a lot of them. Like as long as you think you have captured like kind of the general, different angles of your face, I think it should be enough. Something like that. Let me just say mask on. That's my second category. I'm going to go grab my mask.
While she's grabbing her mask, just a little bit of experience from kids. They like to try all sorts of things. Some will hold up teddy bears, some will hold up books, and things like that. And so the main thing that you want them to appreciate is that in order for an AI to understand the difference between objects and things in pictures, it needs lots of examples of all of the categories that you'd like it to determine. So you could do mask on, mask off, or you could have the students pretty much practically pick anything that makes these images different and then train that.
Okay, so now I have a bunch of images with my mask on and without my mask. So I have 31 here and about 25. It's good to keep them pretty balanced, like try to have equal number of images. I did mask, but you can maybe try like glasses on and off, or put something in front of your face and see, or whatever, like it's easy and close to you to grab, and like two different kinds of objects that you want the AI to classify. Once you're happy with the images that you have in the two categories, remember to name them whatever you want the AI to predict. If you don't rename them, that's fine. It'll just predict it as category 1 and category 2. So once this is done, if you click on train model, it starts the process of training. Now, again, depending on grade level, there are other advanced options in how you can train. So what I'm showing right now is a very like straightforward, simple way to do this. But just like in Navigator, there were so many different options to be able to tune the algorithm, to be able to change different things about the algorithm, etc. Same thing can be done here, but we are going to go with the automated approach since this is the first time we are building this.
And so while it's training, it'll take about a minute or so to train. While it's training, essentially, just a little tip that, I think allowing the students to be very, very flexible about what they are doing, we found that they get kind of a lot out of it. So I had a student last week who basically decided she had her face, and then she basically turned all of her hair upside down so that her hair was completely covering her face, and decided to train the second category with that. So it's really letting them know, do whatever they would like in flexibility. They also have a tendency to be able to create interesting categories and experiments of their own. But basically the idea that they really need to learn is that AIs have to learn. They learn categories and they learn objects, and they do it from examples.
So right now, what this is saying is it
no mask.
Yes, that's right. I mean, you can turn off the voice if it's annoying you, and especially in a Zoom, if you have all the kids and they're unmuted, so then you have to kind of coordinate.
Mask on. No mask.
Okay.
Mask on.
It's not very
no mask.
sure.
Mask on. No mask. Mask on.
Okay, it's going to keep
no
doing
mask.
that. I'm going to turn off the audio, but you can see it not only predicts, but it also kind of tells you how confident it is about its prediction. So if I like change, etc., you can keep saying, so it's constantly predicting, it's constantly grabbing the frames from this, and it's predicting like how this looks. So for example, doing this is changing, like, I have done it a little, I'm not wearing it, but you can see how this keeps like, changing to thinking that I probably have a mask on to I probably don't have a mask on. So try different things and let us know your experience working with this AI. Did it work? Because depending on what kind of objects you're trying, it might work differently.
So I think since we're running a little bit over, maybe we can go through the rest of the slides really quickly and show them how to kind of apply, basically send us their details for the certificate and for all the detailed resources.
Okay, so I'll be really quick. I hope you can see my screen. So, we've kind of explored some of the concepts that we cover. At elementary school, we just look at building basic, just utilizing the AI technology provided at AIClub. We look at how AIs are different from us. We look at how AIs are different from robots. At middle school level, we dig a bit deeper, and then we try and look at, whether the information is correct. We look at the ethics behind artificial intelligence, and we also look at the data and the accuracy of the data. Finally, at high school level, we dig these concepts further. So we look at how do we, we build our own AI, we measure its accuracy, we look at issues of bias, etc. Some really good projects that the students have done is, we had one student who wanted to create an AI for people that are visually impaired. So, this student made an AI that could detect the difference between cash and coins. We have another student who was looking at disaster responses, and their AI was looking at whether assistance is, do we need assistance at that time or not? So these are just like some of the examples that our students have done using AIClub technology. At the higher school level, and I'm sure Nisha can detect, chime in here, but we actually look at Python, JavaScript, Swift, etc. So they dig a lot deeper.
Yeah, so maybe what I can comment on is, so one of the things that I'm sure you guys as teachers know is that the level of code that is, kind of both, introduced in schools as well as, can you go back to the code slide?
Yes,
Thank you.
Yep.
So the level of code that is introduced at different grade levels, varies very dramatically across countries, across cities, and things like that. And so what we found is, frankly, last week I had a first grader who was a coder. I also have had 8th graders who have never coded before. So it's very, kind of varied. And so the approach that we've generally taken, you can notice that all the exercises that we did today did not require any code. And so what we found is that you can provide, students with a way to build AIs, learn how they work, and also really appreciate the kind of the pros and cons and the ethics issues and so forth without involving code. However, for students who are able to code or are in classes where that's really an important priority for them, this is a very important thing. And so, Sindhu showed you a little bit about, like, for example, how you can do a generate code inside Navigator. And so the approach that we've taken is, helping students who are code oriented, for whatever reason, they can either build code to connect to their AI, and that code could be in Python if they're building an app, JavaScript if they're building a website, Swift if they're building like an iOS or an iPhone app. They can connect to it in almost any language, and we provide templates that help them to do that. If they want to build an AI from scratch, we strongly recommend Python. And so that generate code button that Navigator has is a really quick way that students can build an AI by pressing some mouse clicks, and then they press generate code and they get all the code that actually runs that AI, so that they can learn how it works. They already know how it works because they're interacting with it, but now they can see the code that made it happen. And then later, if they want to build something from scratch, they can use that code as a starting point. This type of work we generally see in 7th grade and above, but we have also seen it in lower grade students, as I mentioned earlier. So, but it's much more common in 7th grade and above. So that's just a kind of a quick point that I wanted to make. And so from a resource standpoint, for the people who are taking this training, if the amount of information that we're going to provide you in the follow-up email is not enough depth for your class, please do let us know, because we do, create this depth. We just, it's not necessarily for everybody. So I don't want to kind of, bother everyone with all these details. That's all I wanted to say. Aliyah.
Here are some quick examples of projects that our students have created using AIClub technology. As you can see, and we gave some examples earlier, we have a wide spectrum of projects. That some projects are projects that are fun. Other projects are projects that actually deal with real world problems that the students are trying to solve. And all of these projects are on the AIClub website. So if you want to take a look at your own convenience, that's where those resources can be found. But we have a wide range of projects that our students have created. Here, and I know Nisha said that she'll send you the resource information. Anything else that you want to interject here, Nisha?
Yeah, I think I can share my screen and just show the teachers where they can get these resources.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing mine so you can share yours.
So if you go to the main AIClub website, I'm just going to scroll up here. There's a tab here called resources. So go ahead and click on that. Okay, I'm going to put this link on the chat so that everybody has it, and it will be included in the follow-up. So, and you'll see that there are resources here in a variety of different areas. There's articles that you can read, there's blogs, there's educator resources, webinars, student projects and whatnot. So if you go to educator resources, you'll find that there's also a bunch of free exercises here that are not the same ones that we covered. So there are extra exercises here, like activities and whatnot, that you can also take a look at, that are, some of them, I think there's maybe a little bit of overlap, but there isn't a lot. So you'll find extra stuff there. And then the blogs is always a really good place to go looking, because we tend to, students write blogs about stuff they've done. We kind of put blogs about AIs and whatnot. So these are all good areas starting off of the resources page. So maybe we can provide the link where they can get the certificate, and then have them fill out the form so that they can get the follow-up. And while she's putting that on, this was the teacher training session. Our main session will start at 9:30. Would encourage all of you to attend. That involves our keynote and our student presentations. So our keynote is by Dr. Bharath Ramsundar. He is an expert in AI in medicine, particularly focusing on drug discovery. And so it's a very fun topic. It's a very important topic for worldwide health. Then after that, we have 9 students presenting, and you'll see kind of some of the stuff that they've done in their own words. And the students range, they've been working on it for some time. And so when they started working on it, I would say they ranged from 7th grade upward, the kids that you'll hear speak. And now they've been working on some of this stuff for 6 months to a year. So they're growing up too. So they're a little older now, but that's kind of when they started. So please go ahead and fill out the form, and and we will be following up with you on with resources, as well as if you have any questions, please do feel free to contact us at any time.
And thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you listening to us, and hopefully we can educate our children to be aware of AI technology and to actually show them how to effectively use it. So we appreciate your time and your patience.
Yeah, and I think I think we've had about 200 teachers around the world try out these curriculums and put them in classes. So so basically we would love to hear your experiences of bringing AI to your classroom.
Okay, thank you so much, and I appreciate your time. And as an educator, I'm just going to tell you, I've loved using AIClub. I use it in my current classroom. I found the resources really useful. So if I can use it, you can use it. Let's do that. We have a question here. Yep.
I'm just going to monitor and see, how many people have signed up for their certificate. Okay, yeah, so great. Looks like people are signing up for their certificate. Excellent. I'm going to put the main slide deck for the session up front now.
Okay.
And yeah.
Just put NA. If it's a required question, just put NA, and I think that should help you.
Yes, thank you, Aliyah.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to monitoring the form.
Yeah, I think everyone seems to be okay.
Yeah, we're seeing a bunch of responses coming in. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Just one form.
Yeah, just the one form. Yeah.
And then once you're done with that form, you feel I think they're done correct. So once you're done, if you have any other questions, just type them in the chat, and then I think you're free to go. And we hope that you use the resources and actually join AIClub.
Right. So I'm just going to share one that one of the teachers sent. I hope you don't mind, Jim. This is him showing thumbs up and thumbs down. Very cool. Thank you, Jim, for sharing that.